Welcome to the Chronicles of Lost Relations. After 15 years of marriage, the spark had faded, and we found ourselves drifting away from one another. We shared a home, yet inhabited entirely different realms. Separate spaces, no longer allies, trusted friends, or intimate companions. She began dropping subtle clues, and, at last, I paid attention. After some investigation, I discovered that she had engaged in an affair, if only on an emotional level. She had been voicing her grievances to me, but I had ceased to pay attention to her quite some time ago, brushing aside her complaints and jests. But when I revealed the truth, I ceased merely listening to her. I truly paid attention. She felt discontent in our marriage, and her feelings for me had faded. I understood that attempting to persuade her of her mistakes and suggesting we could mend our relationship would only push her further away. I could perceive it in her gaze. The distance between us was expanding. Thus, I chose to release the notion of mending matters. I lingered there, sipping my beer, cycling through our last argument repeatedly in my thoughts, searching for a way to reclaim her heart. Yet with each effort I made to win her back, she seemed to slip further from my grasp. I found myself in the guest room during those late hours, allowing my wife to rest in our spacious family bed as I tended to my own bruises. On a particular night, everything shifted. In pondering our connection, a sudden insight struck me. What prompted me to debate her emotions? What she experienced was genuine for her, and I had been overlooking it. I came to understand the folly of my actions, attempting to convince her that her emotions lacked validity. From that point forward, I ceased all disputes with her. But what about myself? As I lingered in the shadows, a realization washed over me. I felt the same way. I had moved on from my feelings for her. I was captivated by the notion of our marriage and the life we once shared, yet that was no longer our truth. This revelation struck me profoundly, and I realized that a transformation was necessary. After some contemplation, I ultimately devised a strategy. Whether it succeeded or failed was of no consequence. I realized that our current approach was ineffective, and I couldn't continue repeating the same actions while hoping for a different outcome. With a smile, I discarded the empty beer bottles into the trash and resolved to spend the night in the guest room. This was part of the plan. Yet just as I was ready to embrace the calm, my wife, Becky, swung open the door and illuminated the room, shattering my tranquility. "What brings you to the guest room for a nap?" Becky inquired as she entered the room. I narrowed my eyes against the glaring brightness, allowing them to acclimate. I kept my eyes open into the night, not wanting to interrupt your peace, I responded. She cast a glance my way for a brief moment before turning towards the kitchen to brew herself a cup of coffee. I never relied on coffee. Fortunately, I could rise each morning feeling alert and prepare to tackle the day. Stepping into the shower, I readied myself for the upcoming conversation, a surprising buoyancy in my step. As I entered the living room, I found Becky seated opposite me, her agitation palpable, fists tightly clenched. I settled into my familiar place on the couch, observing her intently. "Timothy," she started, her voice trembling. "This is not functioning as intended. I'm experiencing a sense of disappointment and confusion, and I'm beginning to question my feelings for you." I remained motionless, allowing her words to linger in the atmosphere. With a steadying inhale, she pressed on. "While our journey together has been lengthy, I believe it's time for us to part ways." The term divorce hung in the air, and I found myself smiling as she anxiously anticipated my response. "That sounds delightful, my dear," I remarked nonchalantly. She stared, her eyes wide with astonishment. "Timothy, are you listening to me?" I acknowledged with a nod. "Indeed, I listen to you. It seems like something isn't right. Your feelings for me have changed. So, you're seeking a divorce." I concur. She appeared perplexed, her uncertainty clear as she scanned my expression for a response. "Are you following me now?" she inquired. I rose to my feet, approached her, and lowered myself to kneel before her. "Becky, I cannot alter your emotions. If you don't have feelings for me, what can I possibly say to that? May I express that your feelings might not be accurate?" "Absolutely not. If you believe you can no longer share your life with me, then what grounds do I have to contest that? Becky regarded me with an expression that suggested I had completely lost my sanity. In that instant, I caught the glimmer of understanding in her gaze, a silent agreement that I grasped the depth of her emotions. She felt a deep sense of gratitude. "Wait," she said, her voice trembling. "Did you really say that you didn't love me?" I acknowledged with a nod. "There are moments just as there are for you." She appeared startled, as though this was not the scenario she had envisioned unfolding. Her feelings were evident in her face, and I couldn't help but observe the change. "Is there anything more you would like to add?" I inquired. "I must depart this evening, so I would appreciate it if we could finalize this matter now, if that's all right with you." "Are you heading out at this moment?" she inquired, her voice a mere murmur. I rose to my feet, slipping into my jacket. "Indeed, I am departing. I believe I'll visit a couple of pubs. Perhaps I should consider seeking someone else rather than you." I bid her farewell and departed, leaving her in the chair, dazed and at a loss for words. I paused at the closest bar, requested a bourbon, and settled into a table distant from the throng. While enjoying my drink, I pulled out my phone and dialed Nancy, a colleague famously recognized for her knack for sharing the latest office tidbits. I portrayed the role of the forsaken husband, recounting the dialogue I had with Becky, particularly her startling demand for a divorce. I certainly didn't reveal the entire truth to her, naturally. I found myself at the bar, seeking solace in whiskey, and I may not make it to work the following day. The sound of gears whirring in Nancy's mind was unmistakable. There was a playful exchange between us at the office, and she was available. Before long, she took it upon herself to join me, asserting that she wished to provide companionship during this emotional period. I consented and rendezvoused with her at a bar familiar to my wife and her circle of friends. Did I feel any apprehension about being seen by someone? Negative. My marriage had reached its end, and there was no love remaining between Becky and me. Nancy arrived promptly, looking stunning, perhaps trying to reach me before anyone else had the chance. I like to think that's the case, at any rate. However, upon seeing me, she was taken aback to discover that my body language and mood were at odds with the seriousness of the news I had conveyed to her. My smile was of no assistance either. "Timothy, what's going on?" she inquired, taking a seat next to me, her expression one of bewilderment. I lifted my hand and gestured to my ring finger, now devoid of any adornment. "She is seeking a divorce. That is her sentiment. What's the point of resisting?" I signaled to the waiter and requested another drink. Nancy settled into her seat, ordering her familiar Cosmo with a sense of comfort. "Timothy," speaking on the line, "you appear to be more troubled," she remarked. I inhaled deeply. "We've been feeling discontent for some time," I responded. "I have come to understand that perhaps my feelings for her have changed from what they once were. She desires this divorce, so I won't contest it. If she wishes to depart, so be it." I refused to sit idly by, feeling overlooked and unappreciated. Nancy lifted her drink to her lips, savoring a generous sip before placing it down, her gaze fixed intently on me. I sensed that my demeanor was influencing her, but I couldn't quite determine whether it was confusion or something different altogether. "Perhaps we can engage in a dance?" I took her hand without hesitation, guiding her toward the dance floor. She gazed upwards at me. "Timothy, what are your intentions moving forward?" I drew her nearer, savoring the intimacy. "I will provide her with all that she believes she desires. I'm going to embrace my freedom and do exactly as I please at this moment. At this moment, I feel the urge to dance with you. Truth be told, I've had the desire to dance with you for quite a while now." Her smile danced across her face as she gazed into my eyes. "If you're looking to settle the score with her." I arched an eyebrow. "Perhaps," I responded as she leaned into me, enveloping me in her warmth and comfort. "I'm okay with that," she said with a sigh, and time slipped away from us. It was a relief to not have to think about reaching out to Becky to let her know when I'd return. Nancy was delightful, sharp-witted, and we exchanged playful banter throughout the night. She belonged to me entirely, and she was aware of it. I was aware of it, yet I chose not to bring her home with me. It was sufficient to realize that there was someone who desired my presence. Becky had wounded my pride, yet Nancy had restored it. Honestly, I would argue that Nancy had a greater appeal than Becky. In the dim light of the parking lot, we shared a kiss by her car. I welcomed her in with a warm smile as I opened the door. "I'll see you at work tomorrow," she nodded, recognizing that I wasn't in the mood for anything serious at the moment. I was straightforward about wanting just a bit of enjoyment, and that was the extent of what I was providing. Nancy grasped that concept. By the end of tomorrow, I was confident that every woman in the office would be aware of it. I wish I could say I'm a serene individual, but honestly, I was eagerly anticipating the chance to subtly flaunt this to Becky. As I stepped through the threshold, I found Becky already nestled in her bed. Upon hearing my arrival, she sprang to her feet to greet me. "Where have you been hiding?" she broke. I placed my coat in the closet and began to remove my clothing. I ventured outside, I declared. I mentioned that I would be departing. "What makes this important to you?" "Timothy, I was concerned that you might harm yourself." A smile graced my lips. "Becky, I understand your emotions. I'm doing well. Are you seeking a divorce? I will be more than happy to provide you with one. I won't compel you to stay with someone you no longer have feelings for." I took hold of my pillow and gathered my clothes for the following morning, making my way to the guest room. "Timothy," Becky exclaimed. Her voice wavered. I paused, transferring my belongings to the opposite hand. "Excuse me?" I inquired. Her gaze fell, shyly avoiding mine. "I find myself perplexed. There's no need for you to rest in a different bed." I took a moment, intentionally creating a challenge for her. "Are you implying that I should leave our bedroom?" Becky inhaled sharply, brushing a tear from her cheek. "No, that's not what I intended to convey. If you'd like, you can join me in bed. If it's not your preference, I suppose I can relocate to a different room." Her voice trembled, filled with uncertainty. She appeared anxious at the thought of me truly stepping out of the bedroom. Her face was a canvas of fear, reflecting her uncertainty about my next move. I chose to save her from the pain. "This bed offers a greater level of comfort. If it's not too much trouble, I'd be happy to stay here with you." Her expression lit up. "Absolutely, that sounds delightful. Honestly, it's not an issue for me at all." "Then it's decided," I declared, flinging my pillow back onto the bed. She parted her lips, likely to speak, but I was too exhausted. I suggested we simply head to bed. By the next evening, 4 women at the office had expressed their interest in me. A friend of mine even shared his sister's number with me. She was a widow, navigating the challenges of seeking companionship. I arranged meetings for the upcoming week with all 4 women, including an additional one with Nancy. This evening was purposefully left open as I needed to have a conversation with Becky and clarify some matters. The moment had come to confront the issue at hand. Upon my arrival home, I found Becky waiting for me. "Carol mentioned she spotted you at the bar last night. She mentioned that you were accompanied by a woman. Who might that be? What activities were you engaged in together? She mentioned that the 2 of you appeared quite at ease." I felt like I was on the verge of bursting. I might have raised my voice at her. She was accused of neglecting me, of creating space between us. However, I chose not to. I smiled and assured her that I would respond to her questions once I had changed. She attempted to persuade me, but I brushed her off and headed to change into something more relaxed. As I descended the stairs, I found Becky gazing at me, her eyes brimming with a mix of fury and sorrow. She was prepared to battle. "It was Nancy from work," I admitted, not trying to hide the truth. She likely anticipated that I would offer excuses, but I refrained from doing so. "What activities were you engaged in together?" she inquired, her tone laced with blame. "We were enjoying a date." I responded with a sense of calm. "Going out for a date?" She let out a piercing cry, and I acknowledged her with a nod. "Absolutely. So, you're looking to end the marriage, correct? You expressed that your feelings for me have changed. What's stopping me from seeking love in other places? Your feelings for me have changed, so what motivation do I have to remain here?" She sank in her chair, overwhelmed by a sense of defeat. "But what will others think?" she inquired, her tone now more subdued. "Carol is already spreading rumors about you seeing someone." I rose to my feet, moving back and forth. "How dare you refer to Nancy in such a manner?" I exclaimed. "She is a woman of grace, and I honored her as one. Last night, She found herself on a date with a man who was already committed to someone else. But I suppose that's what one might refer to as a woman of loose morals. What term would you use for a married woman who secretly dates other men without her husband's awareness? Becky remained quiet. Her expression was a blend of alarm and understanding. How is that relevant to my situation? She erupted. I held my composure, the quiet lingering in the space between us. At last, she recognized it in my expression. What is your level of knowledge? She inquired, her voice quivering. That's enough, I stated firmly. Regardless of your actions, I find myself indifferent to the situation now. This union ended the instant you decided to walk away. I've reached my limit. I'm progressing forward. I'm focusing on my well-being since I'm not receiving any support from my wife at home. As I stepped into the kitchen, I set about preparing my dinner. Upon completing my task, I noticed Becky observing me. After a brief pause, she finally spoke. I'm sorry. I apologize as well, I replied as I set the dishes aside. I have some plans lined up for the remainder of the week. Don't anticipate my return before the usual time. If it suits you better, I can take the guest room for the night. There was no reply from her. Eventually, I retired to the guest room, allowing Becky to navigate her sleepless night on her own. The following day, I encountered Kathy. She was a charming 35-year-old blonde, navigating life as a divorced mother of two. We enjoyed some coffee and then engaged in a bit of fun, playing laser tag, just the two of us pitted against a team of 10 teenagers. Despite their relentless onslaught, we found joy in laughter, sharing stories and camaraderie between matches. After one round, we both met our end in the game and found ourselves lying side by side. I drew her close and pressed my lips against hers. She returned my kiss, and following a delightful dinner, I escorted her back to her home. We shared another kiss before we went our separate ways, and she had me vow to ask her out again in the near future. Upon arriving home, I braced myself for yet another clash with Becky. As I entered, I noticed a change in her demeanor. She appeared more reserved. "Hello," she murmured softly. I smiled and welcomed her as I slipped out of my clothes after the evening's rendezvous. "It appeared that you enjoyed yourself," she noted, masking her feelings. "Text. I appreciate your observation," I did respond. "How was your evening?" she inquired. After months of silence, we finally engaged in a meaningful conversation, truly hearing one another. She finally admitted, "I've never been with anyone else. I've had a few romantic encounters, and I opened up to Justin about my feelings at the office. He desired more, yet I wasn't prepared." I gazed at her and remarked, "Becky, I believe we both bear some responsibility in this matter. Even if you didn't share a bed with anyone, you still broke my trust. We were a united front, and you disengaged a long time ago. I appreciate that you didn't engage in infidelity prior to seeking a divorce, yet the pain you've caused me remains significant." She nodded, acknowledging that she should have paid attention to your feelings rather than engaging in a dispute with them. Her expression was a blend of remorse and resignation. We lingered in quietude for a moment, each of us absorbing the weight of it all. "Timothy, I'm experiencing a whirlwind of confusion at the moment. I find myself uncertain about the decision to pursue a divorce." I grinned and responded, "Keep me posted once you come to a conclusion. I have no intention of sending you away, nor am I planning to depart in the near future." I was already on my way to the guest bedroom when she inquired, "Are you still planning to see Nancy?" "Indeed," I responded. "I'm meeting with her, along with others as well. Take the necessary steps and find your way. I must prioritize my own well-being. If a divorce occurs, then it simply wasn't destined to happen." I stepped into the guest bedroom, yet she lingered in the doorway, watching me. "Timothy," she uttered. I glanced over to find her there as I removed my shirt. "Please come back to bed," she implored. I paused. "Do you believe that's a prudent choice?" Her face was wet with tears. "I am uncertain. At this moment, all I desire is you." I extended my arms toward her, and she collapsed into them, weeping uncontrollably. She found herself in a whirlwind of emotions, unsure of how to navigate her feelings. I gently lifted her and brought her back to our bed, cradling her as we drifted off to sleep. Lauren was a dear friend of mine. We frequently engaged in conversations about the newest television series and various fandom subjects. That evening, we ventured to a bar featuring live music, a prospect that thrilled her, yet none of her friends or dates seemed keen on accompanying her. I decided to bring her along. We enjoyed our time together, yet the spark of romance was absent, leaving us with a strong friendship that satisfied us both. I arrived home early and parked in the driveway, only to find a car already there. A fleeting surge of envy ignited within me, yet I swiftly composed myself, reassuring my thoughts that whatever unfolds is meant to be. Worrying serves no purpose, does it? I acquired this technique from my psychiatrist while addressing my fear of flying. Rather than saying, "Oh God, I'm just about to board a flight," he assisted me in reshaping it to, "Oh God, I'm preparing to board a flight. I am eagerly anticipating it." With some practice, it usually yielded results in the short term. I recited my mantra and opened the door, discovering Becky seated with Carol, one of her companions. "Timothy, I didn't anticipate your return so quickly," Becky remarked. "Carol," I acknowledged them with a nod. Carol shot me a frosty glance, yet remained silent. The work wrapped up sooner than expected. "So here I find myself," I remarked. "Are you in need of a little solitude?" Becky and Carol shared a knowing look, prompting Carol to rise from her seat. "It's time for me to take my leave. Becky, I look forward to our conversation soon." Becky escorted Carol to the door, and upon her return, she remarked, "I apologize for the interruption. I apologize for intruding on your evening." I merely shrugged. Now, Timothy, let's not be foolish. This place belongs to you as well." I took a moment, reflecting on her words. "When did we last refer to this place as our home? Have you had a chance to enjoy a meal?" she inquired. I prodded the remnants of what she and Carol had seemingly enjoyed together. "How have you been?" I inquired. She took a seat. "I'm doing fine." I pondered. I invited Carol over for a discussion, but she only left me feeling more perplexed. "In what way?" I inquired. "Becky mentioned that she wanted me to remove you, alter the locks, and end the marriage. It seems my key is still functional, which suggests you may not have had the opportunity to reach out to the locksmith," I responded. She chuckled gently. "Don't be ridiculous." I needed to clarify to her that it was I who initiated the request for the divorce after I shared that with you. "What entitlements do I possess regarding you? I departed from you, correct?" Her gaze was fixed on me, the final part almost a question, probing for a response. I felt an urge to rise and comfort her, to express that I remained hers, yet I held back. I remained quiet. Previously, my attempts to reassure her would have driven her away, but perhaps this more laid-back approach might yield a different outcome. Shifting the conversation, I suddenly exclaimed, "I'm sorry to say I have some unfortunate news. My plans for tomorrow night fell through, leaving me with concert tickets to enjoy solo. How about joining me instead of someone else?" Her expression lit up. "Oh, Timothy, I would love to, if that's what you desire." I simply shrugged. "I suppose I could pass these tickets along to a colleague at the office." "No," she stated firmly, but then continued, "I'd be glad to accompany you." Her cheeks flushed with color as she gave a slight nod. "Do you really think so?" I inquired. "Indeed," she murmured. A smile graced my lips. "This has the potential to be enjoyable." I updated Heather on the shift in our plans, and, while she felt a sense of disappointment, she grasped the situation. That's the reality of navigating the dating scene. Becky was dressed and ready when I picked her up after work. She appeared stunning, evidently attired to captivate. It crossed my mind that perhaps she selected that outfit with the intention of drawing my gaze. I was not very familiar with the band. Since Heather had suggested the concert, I went ahead and purchased the tickets. They were quite lively, but in a delightful way. Encountering Heather didn't catch me off guard. Becky seemed taken aback by Heather's stunning appearance, and it dawned on her that Heather was meant to be my date for the evening. I expressed my apologies to Heather and took the opportunity to introduce her to Becky. "Greetings, Heather. It's Becky here." "Becky, Heather," I called out. Heather was meant to be my companion for the evening. However, an unexpected situation arose. This time, when I introduced Becky, I chose not to refer to her as my wife, which was a departure from my usual practice. Becky observed immediately. "It was a pleasure to meet you, Heather," Becky stated, locking her gaze with hers. A silent exchange occurred between the two women. Heather, demonstrating her quick wit, promptly apologized and assured me she'd see me at work the following day. Becky, in stark contrast, was boiling with anger. She took hold of my hand and inquired, "Timothy, where's your wedding ring?" I simply shrugged. "In the comfort of my own space. I removed it after you requested a divorce. It's no longer necessary for me." Becky found herself speechless. "Timothy, we are still married." I smiled, immersing myself in the music. On multiple occasions, I found myself heading to the bar to replenish our drinks. Every moment, Becky maintained a vigilant eye on me. Whenever I found myself at the bar, a woman would inevitably come over, and we would engage in conversation. One even brought a smile to my face and discreetly handed me her number. Becky observed, but chose to remain silent. I don't typically engage in flirting, but after Becky requested the divorce, I found myself embracing a newfound sense of freedom. I realized I possessed a rather straightforward talent for flirting, and with the inhibition I once maintained gone, I felt free to express myself fully. While I may not be the most attractive guy out there, I've always possessed a solid sense of humor, and it appears that women have valued that quality. After a long time, I sensed Becky's gaze upon me, perhaps recalling how my wit and charisma once enchanted her heart. We both remained silent during the entire journey home. Once we were home and preparing for bed, Becky inquired once more, "Timothy, where's your wedding ring?" I gestured towards the sock drawer nestled within the dresser. She approached, lifted the lid, and revealed the shimmering gold ring. She gazed at it for a moment, then turned to me, her eyes brimming with tears. I handed it over to her, saying, "It's yours now. It might be best to either discard it or put it up for sale." She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "What action should I take with it?" she inquired softly. "Feel free to do as you please," I responded. That ring represented the essence of our love, the bond of our marriage. At one time, it served as a barrier, a signal that I was not accessible to those around me. I questioned whether many truly grasped the significance of it. This ring served as a barrier against other women. "I wish your ring would bring you the same comfort, but since you decided to part ways and not share a home with me, I find I no longer require its protection. It simply brings to mind what once was." I held her gaze unwaveringly until she finally looked back at me. "When a moment arrives, you'll determine how to proceed with it." I moved nearer to her and gently wrapped her fingers around the golden ring. She grasped it silently, embracing the weight of the duty. "Thank you for the evening," she called out to me as I began to drift into slumber. The concert was a delightful experience, and I cherished our time together. "Whenever," I whispered before drifting back into slumber. The following morning, breakfast awaited. Becky prepared a delightful breakfast of eggs and bacon, and I truly valued her effort. As I gazed at her, I observed that she still wore her wedding and engagement rings. As we shared breakfast that morning, I observed Becky nervously toying with her wedding and engagement rings. Subsequently, while at the office, Carol reached out to me. "Carol, it's quite unexpected to receive a message from you. How may I assist you today?" She mentioned lunch today at 12:30 at Bohemia before ending the call. I gazed at the phone, uncertain of what might unfold. I wasn't very familiar with Carol. She was among Becky's colleagues, a person with whom I had limited engagement. Becky always appeared to connect with her, while Carol had never shown much warmth toward me. As I entered the bar where I had first encountered Nancy, my eyes landed on Carol, who was seated at a table adorned with a crisp white linen tablecloth. She waved at me, yet her expression was tight and serious, indicating that this conversation was bound to be uncomfortable. Once I settled into my seat and our orders were placed, Carol shot me a piercing look. "What on earth are you up to? Becky is suffering, and you're seeing other women right in her view?" After quite some time, I experienced a rush of heat to my face, a blend of humiliation and fury. I swiftly held my tongue, understanding that whatever I expressed or did in this moment would likely find its way back to Becky. I paused to gather my thoughts and steady my emotions before replying. "Carol, What do you truly understand about the situation with Becky? I inquired. It's clear that her husband is behaving rather foolishly. She let out a low growl. I surveyed my surroundings, conscious of the eyes upon us. Carol, please refrain from speaking nonsense. Respond to my inquiry truthfully, and I will reciprocate. I have no secrets to conceal. Carol paused for a moment, then eased into comfort as the waiter delivered our meals. I leaned back, anticipating her next words. Carol was acutely aware of Becky's situation. Carol confessed that Becky is perplexed, overwhelmed by confusion. She believes that exploring connections with other men might help clarify her feelings. She felt a warm flush creep across her cheeks as she took a sip of her water. Becky's experiencing a moment of vulnerability, Timothy, she added. Is that so? I inquired, my tone heavy with irony. Am I really the fool here? Carol mentioned that they have been making efforts to assist her in finding solutions. I leaned in, sensing the fury rise within me. This is where I must respectfully disagree, Carol. What drives you and your friends to assist her in navigating her marriage issues? Carol fell into silence. What concern is it of yours? I inquired. Becky is my friend, she whispered softly. What does it matter? I lost my composure. Am I not meant to be her closest companion? Her companion? Her partner in life? Shouldn't she have approached me first if she was facing issues? Rather, she approaches you. Her friends think it's wise to take her to places where she can navigate her emotions with other men. Men who appear indifferent to the fact that they are kissing another man's wife. Carol's complexion drained of color. Her appetite appeared to vanish entirely. My frustration began to swell within me. Carol was merely an unwitting companion who believed it necessary to interfere in matters beyond her comprehension. May I pose a question to you? Carol? I inquired. Do you have a spouse? She gently shook her head. Have you ever tied the knot? She shook her head once more. Do you possess a degree in counseling? She remained quiet. What qualifies you to offer insights on marriage? You have yet to experience the journey of marriage. How could you possibly understand what it feels like? Carol inhaled sharply, caught off guard. Do you really believe you can interfere in another person's marriage? I inquired. What leads you to believe you have the necessary qualifications? I'm her companion, she whispered. From my perspective, you seem to lack any understanding of who I am. How often have we had a conversation? Occasionally. For 15 years, I have shared my life with Becky. When have you truly taken the time to understand who I am? To grasp the essence of the man who has stood by her side throughout the years? You discuss assisting her. But what do you really understand about me beyond Becky's viewpoint? It was evident that Carol was about to break down in tears. I had conveyed my point, and now it was essential to relay the message to Becky through Carol. Carol, I called out. My voice remains unwavering. Becky shared her feelings with me. She is seeking a divorce. She stated, and I quote, I no longer love you. So, how should I reply to that? What reasoning can I present to change her mind? She desires the divorce, so why should I feel discontent? Wishing for a shift in her perspective. I polished off my drink and realized that I had barely touched my meal. I rose to my feet, casting a final glance at Carol. I've come to understand that other women perceive qualities in me that Becky seems to overlook now. She distanced herself from me. I didn't reject her. I refused to pause my life simply because my partner is uncertain and has chosen to walk away. I'm working on moving forward. Her feelings on the matter are entirely her own concern. I've stopped attempting to persuade her or dictate her emotions. I have come to terms with that. With those parting words, I departed before Carol had the chance to respond further. I realized the moment I stepped outside, she would be calling Becky. As I strolled away, I found myself deep in contemplation. That evening, I had a rendezvous with Sandra. Everything unfolded beautifully with Sandra. She stood apart from the rest. She was a younger, strikingly beautiful black woman, immensely captivating. Upon her initial arrival at our company, we maintained a demeanor that was both formal and courteous. However, a few months later, there came a moment when I was sharing a rather risque joke with some friends, and just as I delivered the punchline, Sandra entered the room behind me. The men surrounding me caught sight of her and paused, their breaths suspended in anticipation. I glanced back to catch her astonished look and offered her a playful grin. "Come on, you have to admit, that's genuinely hilarious," I remarked. She paused for a moment, her expression conveying disbelief at the words that had just escaped his lips, before she erupted into laughter alongside me. From that moment forward, she became one of the crew. By the conclusion of our date, she had fully embraced her femininity. Sandra permitted me to explore depths I hadn't ventured with other women. Yet, when the time arrived, I found myself the one to turn down her invitation to remain for the night. Despite my strong desire, there were lingering matters with Becky that I had to address before I could be intimate with anyone else. That evening, as I nestled into my sheets, Becky broke the silence. "Timothy?" "Indeed?" I responded, pivoting to meet her gaze. "Kindly consider taking a shower." Her voice quivered with emotion. "What is the reason?" The darkness enveloped me, and I spoke, a sense of bewilderment in my voice. The illumination flickered to life, revealing her visage, flushed and glistening from tears. She averted her gaze. "Timothy, I must insist that you take a shower. If not, I will have to ask you to sleep in the guest room." I was utterly astonished. "What's going on?" "I can't bear the scent of her lingering on you," she remarked, turning her back to me. "Your scent reminds me of her." In that moment, it dawned on me that she was referring to Sandra. I felt utterly dreadful. I was completely unaware. I whispered an apology, sensing the heaviness of her sorrow. "If you'd like me to head to the guest room, I can certainly do that." "No," she wept bitterly. "Please return to our bed, but only once you've had a shower. Her scent on you drives me crazy. It's disheartening to realize you're involved with other women. I can imagine you're simply hanging out with the guys. I can brush aside the whispers my friends share about who they claim to have spotted you with. Yet here I am, catching her scent lingering on you. I can perceive." I approached her side of the bed, pressed a soft kiss to her forehead, and murmured, "I'm sorry." I acted thoughtlessly. "Allow me a moment to refresh myself with a shower, and then I shall return to our shared sanctuary." Saturday dawned, and I indulged in a leisurely sleep-in. The week had stretched on, filled with nights out and the challenge of balancing it all. I sensed the weight of my years, and I merely wished to avoid catching a cold or anything similar. Becky roused me from sleep with a delightful breakfast and inquired about my weekend plans. "I have no plans at the moment," I said to her, remaining at the kitchen table. "Timothy," she whispered, her voice soft. She delved into her pocket and retrieved an object, then gracefully knelt before me. She revealed her palm, and there it was, my wedding ring. As she grasped my hand, her gaze met mine. "I am committed to improving our marriage. I suppose I might not have considered all the possibilities," she remarked, delicately placing the ring onto my finger. I let her continue on her path. "I still love you," she whispered, remaining on her knees, her eyes searching mine as she awaited my response. At last I found my voice. "Is that truly how you feel?" I inquired. She nodded, her eyes brimming with genuine emotion. "No divorce," she declared, her tone resolute. "What about the other guys?" I inquired, uncertain of the direction this was taking. "Only you exist in this moment," she replied, gazing into my eyes. "And then, the intricate segment. You must grasp this," I stated. "I will still sometimes meet other women." Becky swallowed, and we lingered there for quite a while. Our gazes intertwined in quietude. At that instant, a revelation about my wife dawned on me. I felt assured about the outcome of this situation. At last, she gave a nod. "I guess I shouldn't be taken aback," she murmured gently. "I believe I have feelings for you as well." I took her in my arms and kissed her with fervor. She returned the kiss with the same intensity. It became clear that Becky struggled with low self-esteem, a realization I hadn't fully grasped until this moment. Throughout the years, I had shown her kindness in certain aspects, yet it fell short in many others. We had grown distant, and my greatest error was failing to recognize her emotions. Whenever she opened up to me, I found myself in disagreement. "Are you aware of the damage that can cause?" It is quite presumptuous to assert that another person's feelings are invalid. It fostered a growing sense of resentment and hostility over the years. In time, She came to disregard the significance of what we shared. Perhaps I bear some responsibility for that. As time passed, we evolved, or rather, she evolved. I did not. What would compel me to return to the past? It seemed she hoped I would, yet we both understood that we had transformed. She realized at this moment that if she decided to leave, there were others eager to fill her role. Is it truly necessary for you to explore connections with others? She inquired, her tone barely above a whisper. I assured her with a warm smile, expressing that I had no intention of seeing anyone else. Indeed, I will occasionally meet with others. While you hold the title of my wife, never forget that I am your husband. I won't forget about you, she smiled and then said. Guide me to the sanctuary of dreams and reveal the secrets I've yet to discover. Reveal to me what all these other women receive from you. Do you believe you possess what I'm looking for? I playfully provoked. With a playful smile, she declared, I'll simply demonstrate my affection and perhaps exhaust you to the point where you won't have the energy for anyone else. I lifted her gently and transported her to the bedroom. We hurriedly shed our clothes, driven by an intense urgency, almost breathless with longing. Our fervor ignited as I embraced her, and then she embraced me, and then she embraced me once more. At a certain moment, she discerned from my endurance that I had not been intimate with any of the other women. After 15 years of marriage, she was well aware of my abilities in the bedroom. Throughout the day, she wore a knowing smile, while I chose to remain silent. The situation with my dates was something that remained unspoken between us. This chapter of our lives is one we should leave behind us. After that moment, I refrained from inquiring about the men she had shared kisses or conversations with. She regarded me now with a fresh sense of admiration and esteem. I never thought my plan would actually succeed, yet in the end, it did, albeit not as I had anticipated. The plan had its flaws, and initially, my stubbornness prevented me from giving her the satisfaction of witnessing her cruel words take a toll on me. Upon witnessing her response to my encounters with other women while she remained at home, I decided to advance my plan even more. I aimed to win her back by establishing some distance between us. The desire for what is out of reach often overshadows the appreciation for what is already within grasp. These are the guiding principles I embrace now. In liberating ourselves, we have forged a bond deeper than ever imagined. I haven't had the opportunity to see others just yet. The initial indication that Becky is slipping back into her former ways will trigger my upcoming date. I'm aware of this, and she is too. Together, we strive not only to listen to one another, but to genuinely understand one another. Dear audience, we invite you to share your insights in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay connected.